How's it going, guys? I'm here to talk about WWE 2K22 and the new trailer they put out. It's like somewhat of like a teaser in a way. We've seen trailers in the past, and this is probably one of the most delayed WWE games of all time, and I'm perfectly fine with that as long as we get as further away of a mess that was WWE 2K20. I'm perfectly fine with it, because I'll tell you one thing. WWE games were actually getting pretty good with 2K19. That was a real surprise to me playing it after, skipping so many of the 2K games and going into that one. I did a retrospective, and a lot of people actually agreed and disagreed, and that's why I like to do those sorts of videos. Even if it may be an unpopular opinion, you kind of see the people coming out of the woodwork. When they see somebody that likes something, they'll come to the video, they'll comment and say, I like this too, and that's what I like to do. I like to share my opinions. And some people, because a lot of people will be like, oh, well, the product is all bad, I don't want to admit that when they make a good game. And that's how a lot of people are. I like to separate the product on TV from the games, because that's not really fair. Even though certain aspects may influence it, we're talking about a video game. It's a fantasy WWE world where anything is possible or could happen. Now, if you want to say that the past WWE games are better, I would definitely agree. But to say a game like 2K19 is not a substantial game that does a lot of things right, I think you'd be really incorrect in saying so, but you're entitled to your opinion. If you want to talk about Here Comes the Pain, Shut Your Mouth, and all those games being better, I definitely see that. I actually agree, especially if we're talking about like the story modes in those games. But let's talk about 2K22 and what this game has to offer. So the trailer was kind of just to whet the appetite, sort of. It's not really a full-on trailer, but we got to see enough to see how this game is coming along. And it seems like the graphical style has kind of morphed a little bit. I can't really describe it, but it looks a tad bit different than 2K19, and thank God it looks different than 2K20, right? Anyway, they wanted to hit on these 10 big points of what the game is trying to bring to the table. Not all 10 points are really that exciting, but some of them are. Some of them are very interesting, so we'll talk about them here, and I'll put up footage in the meantime and some graphics for you to see like what I saw. So anyway, we've got redesigned gameplay engine, which obviously they're going to be working on a different engine. 2K20 tried toying with it. I thought the 2K19 one was really good, and they should have just built off of that, but for some reason they just completely changed everything, and obviously the physics were a mess. Don't get me wrong, I might have not mentioned it a lot in my 2K19 retrospective, but there is a fair amount of glitches in there. I even put one in there, and someone even commented about like the rope being trapped on one of the wrestlers. So there is that, but there's always been glitches in wrestling games. There's glitches in all games, really. New controls. Well, they actually showed us on screen what the controls will look like, at least for the Xbox One, and that's actually going to be the system I'm going to be playing on it, so that's good. Definitely looks different. There's actually going to be a block button, and that's a little bit interesting. It's not just a reverse, but a block button. Like, that's kind of like what we used to have back in the AKI games, which is really interesting. So and there's going to be a different button for signature and finisher moves, so there's a lot of different things going on here. Seems like there's also going to be a lot of that same stuff that I don't really like, where like you're holding two buttons at once. I also don't see how you Irish whip in this game, so that remains to be seen, but it seems like it's okay. We've got a heavy attack, a light attack, so we're going to have to check that out and see how this all comes about. And we see that the right stick is definitely different, and I'm very used to 2K19 because I've spent many an hour with that game, and I kind of wish they would go back to it because I felt really comfortable with that. While not perfect, it was a good control scheme, but this seems like it may be decent. Stunning graphics. I will admit, this graphical style, as I mentioned before, it's different, but I'm digging it. There's nothing in here that looks bad. I don't get why a lot of people were saying that this looks bad. I mean, like, I don't know. You're not looking at the trailer. You must be looking at a pile of dirt on the floor or something. Or maybe you accidentally clicked on the 2K20 trailer or something like that. I don't see how anyone can't look at this and instantly say that it looks better than 2K20, that it looks up to par, that it looks, like a credible looking wrestling game. Because I think it does. Immersive presentation. I don't know exactly what they mean by that. I guess they're going to try to really draw you in, but I mean, that's supposed to be the goal of any game. I wouldn't really say that that's something that they should really tout as being like one of the top 10 things, but whatever. New WWE 2K showcase. Okay, I really think they should do more than one of these, especially because of the big gap in between. I talked about it in my 2K19 retrospective as well. Having like the Daniel Bryan showcase, like it just felt a bit, just a bit too short on content. It's going to be on Rey Mysterio, so obviously that's going to be way bigger than Daniel Bryan. You have so much ground to cover with that one, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I actually paid for the DLC to actually play as Rey Mysterio in 2K19, so, having him in this game, and obviously, I hope he's not DLC. He better not be. But, playing his story, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of great stuff. We'll see his matches, like with the Big Show. I would love to see them recreate where he was slammed on the girder into the ring post. We're probably going to get to see his feud with Eddie Guerrero. We'll see his match with at SummerSlam when a few weeks after he debuted against Kurt Angle. His championship win at WrestleMania. The Royal Rumble. I'm sure that's going to be fun. Playing through the Royal Rumble. Entering in at number 2. I'm sure that's going to be something to really experience. So that will definitely. That would be immersive presentation, definitely. But man, I hope they don't really like narrow it down so much. I want a really long showcase. Get a lot of footage of Rey Mysterio being interviewed. This is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, so I'm happy they're doing a showcase on him. He definitely deserves it. And that definitely makes it worth the wait. But yeah, don't like give us like 10 matches. Like, come on, that would be really shitty. My GM. I've never been like the biggest My GM fan. It was never called My GM. It was just called, GM mode. But now they're calling it My GM to fit in with all the like my career stuff and my this and my that, But regardless, people wanted this mode, so it is nice that they're listening to the fans and they're giving the people what they asked for. It's nice when you give consumers what they want because they'd be more likely to buy your game. And let's be quite honest, people just want SmackDown versus Raw. They want that old SmackDown feel. Quite honestly, people don't want anything to do with this 2K series. They had a bad reputation ever since 2K15, and people have like never really forgotten about that. And let's be honest, like the games have just not been as good, but a lot of them weren't really that terrible. So it's nice that they decided to go back to the My GM. I'll give them credit for that. Even though this is not like one of my favorite modes, I'll definitely toy around with it. My faction seems interesting. It seems like it's going to be its own story mode, career mode for creating your own faction. I just hope that we get a lot of NWO guys, so we could just, and DX guys, so, I could make that faction. Like, I kind of don't want to make my own faction. I kind of want to recreate factions and have them run roughshod over the WWE. That would be what I'm into. But you're seeing, like, a lot of people in the ring. So, hopefully we get even more wrestlers in the ring at once. That would be totally awesome. Imagine they give you like all these NWO guys, like even like Scott Norton and Horace Hogan, the Disciple. Imagine having all those guys in the ring all at once. That would be really cool. And it looks like I get that. Maybe not those guys, but this is a good idea for a mode. My Rise. Okay, it's quite obvious that that's going to be My Career. They're just giving it a different name because it's always been about a wrestler on the rise. All we can really see from the clips is there's going to be one male career and one female career, and it seems like the male gets killed at one point, getting pushed off this high-rise balcony, and another one with the girl is getting the shit kicked out of her by all the women's division wrestlers. So, this remains to be seen what there's going to be. But that's something in itself. We're going to have a separate story for the male and for the female from the looks of it. I thought 2K19's story mode, the My Career, I thought it was really, or My Player actually, was actually really good. So yeah, usually you create a wrestler and then you take them up the ranks. I will say this, I really hope that you unlock stuff a lot easier, because that was one of the biggest drawbacks. It was like very expensive, a lot of the in-game items that you would purchase, like you wouldn't be able to use all the stuff. They gave you like the bare minimum, when it came to your attire. So I hope now that they like give you more stuff unlocked, because that was just kind of pointless to me. I mean, I get the point. You earn more money, like, in the story, so it's like you have more money to buy more exquisite gear, but really they got kind of a little bit carried away with that, to the point where your move set wasn't that vast, and also, your attire was like, you had like no options really. You had like the most basic tights, the most basic boots, and so I hope they rectify that in this mode this time around. Universe mode. Now, this is like a mode that I could never get into, and they also didn't really show what they're going to do to improve on universe mode, so it's kind of interesting why they're touting it here as like an innovation. I mean, I guess that means that they're going to innovate around it. This was like pretty much worthless in 2K19. I don't know how it was in 2K20. I'm going to assume it wasn't that great from what I've heard. But I've never got into a universe mode since WWE 12. That game had a great universe mode. You played it, and even Brock Lesnar showed up in that mode, and just a lot of fun the whole way around, and they never really recaptured that magic. This has always been a very like limited mode in a lot of ways, just a lot of random events. You can edit shows, but it never felt quite right. And in 2K19, that stupid promo system that makes like absolutely no sense. Yeah, they gotta really work on this mode if they want, someone like me to play it. I feel like this is a mode, a lot of people over the years have said that like this is like one of their favorite modes. I don't really see as many people talk about as much as they used to, so I think a lot of people kind of agree with me. Creation Suite. Well, I mean, they really did do a good job with 2K19 and all the options that were in there. I mean, you look at some of the community creations and people making these wrestlers, that were not included in the game, and they were like mind-blowing. I mean, go watch my retrospective that I did on that game. Like, just honestly, like people improving on the game in certain ways using it. Like Edge looked just terrible in that game, like his actual in-game model, but someone made a community creations Edge and it looked fantastic. I even showed off in that video. So overall, I'm looking forward to this. I mean, it looks good. The graphics are stunning. They look very good. Everything looks nice. The gameplay they showed off looked pretty crisp and smooth, but I mean, it's one thing when you get the controller in your hands. Now, the thing is, you got My Faction, My Rise, and everything. I mean, really, in Showcase. So it seems like there's going to be quite a bit of stories, but personally, like, what do I want from one of these games, like what is something that I'd personally want in it, I would just want like a story mode to the effect of something that's it like Here Comes the Pain. There's a story mode where you can pick like a pre-existing wrestler already in the game. It doesn't have to be a created wrestler, and you could play through the story mode and, you know, choose different paths. You can choose what faction you wanted to join. And that was a lot of fun. It always felt like, you know, you were really in the storylines of WWE, and you know, you could go back and the replayability. I mean, you don't really have that with like 2K19 with the My Player mode. There's not really too many different choices to make. I mean, you could choose different lines of dialogue, but it doesn't really change all that much, really. So, you know, I would like to see that level of choice make a return. I think a lot of people would like that too. So, yeah, there you go, guys. I mean, that's my thoughts on what we've seen so far of the game. You know, just a little short trailer. We've seen a few other little short trailers. And, you know, unlike a lot of people, I mean, you know, people are complaining about the roster, but let's be quite honest. They were complaining even before the roster cuts. Trust me, I'm pretty sure this will be a sizable roster. They're probably going to make sure they get plenty of legends, as I said before, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. Now, let's face it, like, half the NXT guys, I never played as them anyway. Like, I never played as Shane Thorne, for example. Only like when I did squash matches would I ever like wrestle against Shane Thorne or something like that. Like, seriously, like there's some people on the roster where it's so big, like, you trust me, I even know even certain NXT fans, they probably would not even pick some of those people. So yeah, not too concerned about it. But anyway, guys, let me know, what did you think about the trailer down in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.